This letter was found by Iraqi security forces in an abandoned Daesh fight position on the outskirts of the city of Ramadi, Iraq. It was found at some point between February 16th and February 24th of 2016. There is no information on the fate of its author. It's being translated into English from the original Iraqi dialect Arabic. Some liberties have been taken with the translation, for ease of the reader, but the letter remains mostly intact. Mother, you are right, as you are in all things. I was a fool to join the Baghdadi. I wish I had listened to you and not followed my father to fight under the black flag of jihad. The Iraqi army and their damned infidel masters push us farther back daily. I fear that my brothers have been martyred for nothing. It seems as if God has abandoned our cause. I ask daily what we did wrong to cause him such anger with us. We spend the days falling back, watching the skies for drones and aircraft. I want to stand and fight, but I have had to husband my last magazine with care. I have but 3 rounds left, and we have no hope of receiving more munitions. There is talk of a bayonet charge into the guns of our enemies. Some of the more fierce in their faith, shall we say, brothers insist that God has not abandoned us, merely that we need to make a bigger show of proof of our faith. I, however, do not think this is the case. I know that God has abandoned us and our cause, not by any show of divine disdain, but by the actions of others. We thought they were desertions at first. It happens all the time, particularly the Western brothers more used to a life of luxury. The online recruiters bring them in with promises of wives and riches, and when they arrive expecting to just be handed virgins, they're sorely disappointed when they're handed a rifle and told to earn them. So in the dark, they flee. It was usually treated as a joke at first. Brother Americi has lost his nerve. Good. More glory for the truly faithful, we would say. Eventually we ran out of wide-eyed Westerners to stand the midnight watches. No more bullied boys from France. No soft men from the United Kingdom. Nobody thought much of it. We just figured them for Western cowards. Whispers began to circulate, though. Rumors on the desert wind. The brothers had not been deserters. No. They had been taken. Not by SAS or American commandos. Tales of spent shell casings and blood-soaked sand in watch positions began making the rounds. The leaders came down on anyone spreading the rumors. My friend Abu Jafar was beaten severely for repeating one such tale. The message was made clear. Rumors would be treated as punishable offense, but still, they circulated amongst trusted friends. With all the foreigners having deserted, we had to stand the watches ourselves. The desertions continued. These weren't weak-raised men. These were fierce brothers who had been fighting since the beginning. I know in my heart they did not desert our cause, and I had this confirmed to me. Confirmed that most of them had not deserted our cause in the most horrific fashion. I had a friend, Abu Shakhtar, a beautiful man with a beautiful beard, who had been fighting for Allah's will ever since the Russians had invaded his homeland of Afghanistan. He was a good and pious man, very strict with his prayers. I have watched him face Mecca even in the fiercest firefight. I was standing the evening watch with him. We had been on watch not for long. It was around midnight or so, and Abu Shakhtar went to stand next to the wall to relieve himself. I made some sort of joke about the reek of urine being our companion for the rest of the night. He laughed and told me to grow stronger. I made a joke about me being a weaker man than he. He started to reply, but was cut short. his words trailing into a scream. I turned and called his name. It was dark and my torch was weak, old batteries. Abu Shakhtar was on the ground. The earth behind him was broken open. Something was dragging him down into that void. My God, I do not know what demon had him. The weak light of my torch did not cast enough light. There was a limb reaching from the hole. The flesh was black. Jagged bone or horn studded the limb, pierced up through ragged flesh. Abu Shakhtar struggled mightily, putting up a fight as good as any man could. He punched and kicked and struck out with his knife, but it was for nothing. The limb ended in some sort of claw or talon. It had a firm grip on the back of his shirt. It pulled him into the earth like he was nothing. I heard the man scream from within the hole. I heard the sound of his flesh being torn. I heard his bones breaking. Mother, I heard a good man die. Painfully. I am ashamed to say this, but I will not lie to you, Mother. I did not help him. I was frozen in fear. I managed to raise the torch and cast its meager light into the hole. The vision that greeted me was horrific indeed. Abu Shakhtar was in pieces. The shadows seemed to move around the pile of what was left of him at first, before I realized the shadows were alive. The shadows were a creature as black as night, except for its giant eyes, which glowed green like a cat's. It held me in its gaze as if contemplating coming after me. I realized that my fate was in my hands at that point. Let the thing overtake me or run. God, or perhaps Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave me the strength to run, and that is what I did. I turned my back on Abu Shakhtar and the demon in the hole. I ran. I ran as hard as I could, as far as I could. I do not know if it followed. I only know that I escaped. Some of the brothers came back with me with more weapons, but we found nothing. The hole was gone, as was the creature and Abu Shakhtar. You could tell where the hole was because the trail left by Abu Shakhtar's grasping fingers in the sand when he was trying to stop himself being pulled down. The brothers were quiet on the walk back, and I was told not to repeat the story. I was told that American commandos had come in the night and had run off with Abu Shakhtar. You are the first person I have told, Mother. I have to tell someone. The Iraqi army nips at our heels and people still despair during the night watches. Our cause is lost. I think that I will be dead soon. But I wanted you to know that I love you, that I wasn't a coward or a deserter. Karim ibn Abdullah al-Iraqi. I found something I wrote at some point. This isn't a ghost story. I think it was a response to a question about Iraqi war memories. I don't think I ever sent it back to the people who asked, mostly because it was my cousin's 5th grade history class. And they have plenty of time to figure out how fucked up the world is without me spreading that along. It's not horrifying in a traditional sense, but it kept me up a few nights when it happened. I may have talked about this in other places. I don't remember. This took place on the outskirts of Ramadi, Iraq. At a little outpost built to control the road between the town and a neighboring suburb. We shut down the entry control point for lunch. I was standing outside of the ID shack, a little wooden shitbox we would sit in whilst the Iraqi cops would search people and pass us the IDs to check. Rarely interesting, but it got you out of the compound itself. We caught somebody that the DOD was interested in every other day, but we usually got told to release them. Aside from catching the occasional smuggler or tiny riot, nothing too wild went on there. I looked up because a woman in a full burqa was walking towards me. All I could see were her eyes. She was inside the 2 gates, at each side of the street. I was about to yell at my cops for leaving the gate unmanned while shut down, when I realized there was a distinct possibility that this woman might explode when she got close enough to me. I brought my rifle up to bear on her and told her to stop. No response. She just kept walking towards me. I yelled again. Nothing. She just kept walking towards me. I doubt she even knew I was on her plane of existence. I never really felt threatened by her, though. She had a slow walk, no hurry in the world. She was carrying something. Not like you carry a bag of groceries or a purse. It was clutched to her chest, held tight. I briefly thought about her exploding again, but something about the situation. I don't know the words. The air felt heavy, like some deep shit was about to go down, but not the kind of shit where you start shooting, if that makes sense. I lowered my rifle. All I could see of her face was her eyes. They didn't look angry, tense, or anything like that. They looked tired, but not the end of the day tired, more like, I don't want to do this anymore tired. She got close enough to me where I could talk without shouting. I did something stupid and walked myself up to her. One of the Iraqi cops wandered out from under the cami net where the cops were eating. He, of course, didn't have his rifle on him, and I remember being vaguely pissed about that. He was standing next to me when I got her to show me what she was holding to her chest. It would have been easier if our interpreter was around, but he had a talent for disappearing when shit got heavy. She closed her eyes for a moment and started to open the bundle. I had one last mental image of this woman exploding and shredding me and the cop. The kid couldn't have been more than 3 years old. When the fly landed on his lip, I knew he was dead. I didn't know what to say. I just looked at the kid and looked into the woman's eyes. I nodded at her and motioned towards the other end of the ECP. Me and the cop watched her walk off to the other gate, which was unmanned, of course. We watched her pull the concertina wire to the side and keep walking. Didn't check her ID. Didn't send her into the female search area. Just let her go. That dead child's face in my mind, when she was out of sight, the cop turned to me and mustered the few words of English he had. Fucked up. I told him to go find his fucking rifle. Not a horror story in the classical sense, but it kept me up at nights, because I would see that baby when I closed my eyes. As the father of a small child, I've taken a tour of my worst nightmare.